There are some really simple steps any accounts payable department, or accounting group for that matter, can take to make the whole year-end process go a little bit more smoothly. Yet many forget to take them. Wouldn't you love to get through year-end without having someone from purchasing screaming at you because you won't make a payment on an invoice that they forgot to approve? Wouldn't it be wonderful to have just one year-end where disaster didn't hit because the VP of Sales didn't submit his expense report for the last 3 months until December 28th, while expecting to be reimbursed almost immediately so he could make his year-end credit card payment? Well, there are some simple steps any organization can take to head off these disasters and others before they have a chance to erupt. Make sure you stick around until the end when we share the one tactic that will make your professional life just a tiny bit smoother. And who wouldn't want that? Task number 1 I call the big reminder. Send out a notice to everyone in the company reminding them to get all their outstanding invoices and expense reports submitted before the cutoff date. And remind them what the cutoff date is, so payments can be made in the current fiscal year. In many organizations, the cutoff date for the fiscal year end is a few days earlier than it is in regular months. So everyone should be reminded so you avoid those ugly debacles discussed above. What's more, by doing this, assuming you can get everybody to comply, you will end up with more accurate financial statements. For accruals, sometimes miss a few critical transactions. Now you might ask, will everyone read those email reminders? You know the answer to that question. Sadly, not everyone will. But here's something you can do, and maybe you'll want to make it part of number 5 that we're going to discuss a little later. You know who most of the laggards are. Those guys, and by guys I mean both males and females, who always push the envelope and periodically show up in your office throwing a temper tantrum trying to get you to clean up whatever mess they made. Create a list of these folks and send them a second reminder, perhaps even marking it as urgent. Now listen, don't put the word reminder in the subject line, for if you do, they are likely to not bother opening your note. But you could put something like this in the subject line. If you want your expenses reimbursed this month, or if you want an invoice paid this month, and see if that gets their attention. It may not, but at least you'll have tried. Task number 2, avoid reliving last year's nightmares. Hopefully you took notes during last year's process. Review last year's year-end calendar and or your notes and identify the problem spots. They may be seared into your mind. Figure out what went wrong or why the problem occurred. Then look for ways to avoid those very same issues this year. We've already discussed one such problem, those folks who submit invoices for payment after the cutoff date. Maybe the GL coding was off last year in the work done by the billing group. Talk to them. See if perhaps you can provide some sort of a GL coding cheat sheet for the types of transactions they typically handle. Or perhaps there were issues between one of your processes and the purchasing manager. Does that same processor still have the same job? If so, perhaps you can offer them a little additional training on the problem, or better still, move that particular task to someone who gets along better with that particular purchasing manager. Anticipating problems before they occur and dealing with them goes a long way towards a smoother year end. Task number 3, be understanding. January is always tough. It's not only the quarter end, but for many it's also the end of the fiscal year, with all the attendant reporting that goes along with that. Plus, in about 3/4 of all organizations, the accounts payable staff is responsible for issuing 1099s. A really thankless task, I might add. Recognize that this year will be no different, and in fact, it may be more difficult than in prior years. Why? Because the IRS has been very late with their new forms. In fact, they are so late that AP Now, that's my company, is running a 1099 webinar in January to go over the last-minute changes, some of which we're still waiting for. And we never do that. We always get this done in December. This means the staff will really be under the gun this year to get those forms out correctly and on a timely manner to the recipients by January 31st. Let them know you understand January will be rough and that as the manager, you'll be there for them. If they're responsible for issuing the 1099s, make sure they get some training on the new forms. People will work harder for you when they know they're appreciated. Task number 4. Don't forget to say thank you to the staff. Of all the issues discussed today, this is probably the one that is the most frequently forgotten, and it's the easiest to do. A simple thank you goes a long way. While ideally you say it throughout the year, it's only the exceptional manager who remembers to do that. But that doesn't mean all is lost. You can thank the staff in its entirety at a staff meeting, or better yet, write a personalized thank you message in a holiday card. Taking the time to craft and write the message yourself, no matter how lousy your handwriting is, will go a long way to raising morale in the department. Of course, and perhaps this will be one of your New Year's resolutions, it will go a lot farther if you treat everyone with the respect they deserve throughout the year. And yes, I know this can be sometimes difficult, especially if your boss is on the warpath over something stupid one of your staffers did. But just remember, no one is perfect, and we all do stupid things occasionally. I'm going to take the fifth on that particular issue. But I'm off on a tangent, so let's move on. Before we get to the item that focuses on change, I'd like to ask if this discussion is giving you any ideas on steps you could take. If so, I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit the like or the thumbs up button. It helps both YouTube and us know the content is appreciated, and we should create more like this. Task number 5, plan for change. Why am I including this here? Because advances in technology are coming at us faster than we might have ever imagined. This means we are all going to see our functions and our jobs change in the next few years. And some of these changes could be massive. By the way, that's one of the reasons we create content for this channel, addressing the new issues every accounting, payment, and accounts payable professional needs to know to stay current, as well as the older best practices, internal controls, and of course, we've got a few talks that will help folks getting a job. So when you are finished with this one, please check out our over 475 videos on this channel. Now, by preparing yourself and your team, now you will find the evolution we are going through just a little bit easier to navigate. Identify 3 things you'd like to change in the new year in your accounts payable function or your accounting function, either for the department or yourself or a mix. 3 or 5 depending upon what you have going on and how much change is really needed in your group. It could be a reduction in errors, getting some new technology, or perhaps for yourself, learning about some new technology, learning how to use it. I'm not talking about making grandiose plans and having New Year's resolutions. Just 3 simple things. If you master these 3 items in the next few months, there's no law that says you have to wait until next January to pick out another 3 things you want to focus on and try. These goals might be as small as learning how to create pivot tables or learning how to use conditional formatting in Excel. In fact, if learning about conditional formatting, something that is really useful in accounts payable and accounting when it comes to finding duplicates, if that's one of your items, you can get started right now by clicking on the link that has appeared on your YouTube screen and is in the description. Good luck.